Okay, so the goal of today is really to invite you all to be a deeper part of the process, I guess, for your admitted students that are planning on coming to UC Merced this fall. We know that there are a lot of steps that students need to complete between now and when they actually arrive on campus and start classes. And we want to make sure that everybody has the tools they need to easily complete those tasks, that people know how to get help and that they know that we're here to support them. And one of the things that we recognize and want to acknowledge is all of the work that you do as high school counselors that have gotten the students to this point and that will help get them to kind of the next steps. You all play a huge role in their educational journey, and we want you to be a part of that role. We also understand that many of these students might be coming to you and asking questions. And so if you want to be a part of that journey, today we want to give you those tools to continue to help those students. And I want to be clear, this is by no means saying your students shouldn't contact us for help. We are definitely here to help. But we also know that these students already have a relationship with you. And so we want you to know that you can also help. And we are happy to help you and the student on anything that you might need in the next few months. All right, so next slide. Okay, so a little bit about who we are today. So that is me at the top. Dustin is now on screen with me, but my name is Lisa Perry. I'm the director of the don't know what the Students First Center is. It is our campus one-stop. So at UC Merced, our goal is to make getting service as easy as possible. So the staff in the Students First Center area are cross-trained in admissions, financial aid, registration, and billing. Our hope is that students don't need to know how to navigate the intricacies of a university, that they can go to one person and we're going to help them and connect them with other resources if needed. So that's a little bit about me on the screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Dustin and let him introduce himself as well.
Hi, everyone. Dustin Oji, Director of Undergraduate Admissions. I was reading my caption and bio, and it says he was a transfer student. I'm still a transfer student because way back when I transferred to the University of California from my small hometown, Hanford, California. So lifelong Valley resident, been here at UC Merced since 2005. And seen the campus grow tremendously over that time from, 800 students to one, just a couple buildings in our library to now, the completion of our 2020 project and inviting our first BS to MD students to campus this fall. So it's been a pretty extraordinary ride. I think, I just want to send a huge, just share our gratitude for your help and helping spread the word about UC Merced. And as Lisa said here, the point of this webinar is to give you the information, to arm you with the data that we know about, and also to give you points of contact that you can reach out to in the future if you need assistance helping your students. We know they've gotten to this point, they've done all the right things, and so it's just a couple more steps to get them over the line, and we're here to help demystify that process.
Yay. Yes. And fun fact, Dustin and I have both worked together at UC Merced since 2005. So we're one of the few founding staff left on campus, and we are very excited to be hosting this webinar today. This is the first of its kind, and so we're happy that you're here. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the way today is going to work is I'm going to go over a few slides that are going to have all the dates and deadlines that a student needs to be aware of for the next few months. So May, June, July, August, everything that will lead them to actually enrolling and starting classes in fall. Like I said, we're going to email out this presentation, but feel free to take screenshots if you want to. It is, a lot of information, but we're going to start with just some key dates and deadlines. Then we're going to go into some tips and self-help tools for financial aid. We're going to talk about some next steps on admissions. And then we're going to talk about how we're going to be communicating with the students this summer, some webinars that we're going to be doing, and then we'll go into questions. So this is May. May is quickly approaching. For first year students, our priority SIR deadline is May 1st. Simultaneously, our health insurance waiver opens, so students in the University of California system are required to carry their own major medical insurance. And if they have their own, they can opt out of ours. That item will show up in a personalized checklist that the student has in their portal, and it's an electronic form that they fill out. And it's due in August, so that deadline will show up when we get to the August slide. Anyone who is planning on living on campus their first year needs to fill out the housing application. From the day that a student submits their SIR, it takes 24 to 48 hours for them to get access to the housing application. So if they submit on May 1st, it'll probably be about May 2nd, May 3rd until they get access to the application. They need to fill it out and make sure that they've got it in by May 4th. And then there's a second part to that housing application process. So they submit the application and then they actually have to sign their contract. And so the contract deadline is May 5th. On May 4th, we're going to get our first newsletter out to this population of students. So every month during the summer months, we will be sending out a newsletter that will be sharing all of these dates and deadlines with students, alerting them to next steps, and sharing key resources that we need them to know about during that time. All of the information that we try to send out to students is on-time information. So we know it's a lot of details. We don't want to send them everything all at once and let them, either feel overwhelmed or they forget. So we're trying to do a marketing campaign that's just in time kind of information that they will need. Some students, moving on in our checklist, some students will have what's called a statement of legal residence. If they are required to fill that out, it will be on their checklist, and the priority deadline for that is May 5th. And then students also need to be taking placement exams. We have a handy dandy website that tells them who needs to take what. They are currently open, so if you have a student who is already CERD, they can already begin taking those placement exams, and the priority deadline to get those in is May 15th. And those are the 4 exams that they need to look at and consider if they need to take them or not. So the first one is the writing readiness exam. The second one is the computer science and engineering exam. The third is the math placement exam, and the fourth is the chem exam. They are all online exams. I believe students can only take them once. However, we do have a summer edge program that if a student maybe needs a little extra help in math or writing, they can take this summer edge program and then they get a second opportunity to retake those placement exams at the end of their courses. The next deadline is the first year major change form. So right now, if a student has submitted their SIR, anyone can change their major all the way up until May 15th. There's 2 restrictions on that. And Dustin, you have to help remind me which are the 2 majors they can't go into.
Yeah, that's right. For regular applicants right now, they won't be able to select computer science and engineering as a major, and they will not be able to select undeclared in the School of Engineering as a major. With that said, we are allowing all students, incoming students, to meet with their advisors after the beginning of the fall semester, and they can meet with their advisor at that time and discuss with them possibly changing into either of those majors once the fall semester starts. There is another population of students, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later at the end of the presentation, that we're calling bright beginning students. Those are students that we've offered an option of admissions to at UC Merced. For those students, since they have not had the chance to indicate their intended major at our campus, they will have the option of selecting both computer science and engineering and undeclared into the School of Engineering.
And we just had a great question come in on the chat. I'm going to address it now because I think it's important that everybody has this information as we move through. We've been asked, have all students received their UC Merced admissions decision, and is there a wait list for UCM? Dustin, I'm going to let you take that one.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. So as of this point in time, all on-time applicants have received their UC admissions decision. If for some reason your student hasn't seen their decision, they can log into decision.ucmerced.edu, and I'll have one of my colleagues put that in the chat and look at their current admission status. This is only for on-time first-year applicants. We are still releasing transfer admissions decisions. So if any of you are community college counselors online right now, those decisions will be released by May the 1st. And we have released probably about 60% of transfer decisions, but all of them should be released in the next week or two.
Awesome. Okay, moving to the end of May, we've got online housing selection opens. So students, after they apply, they'll get an opportunity to select their room and their roommates. And this will be done with kind of time tickets. It's kind of like course registration. So they'll be assigned a time ticket of when they can go in and make those decisions. And then at the end of May, we are hosting a webinar very similar to this, but geared towards students and parents, where we'll be going over a lot of the information that you're going to see on the next slides. Okay, in June. So if you are, I think we only invited housing, or I'm sorry, I read the question as I was talking. I believe we only invited high school counselors to this webinar. So if you see something that says TR next to it, that's for transfer students. So I'll kind of skip over those right now, but if anybody has questions about transfer students, we are also happy to answer those questions as well. So in early June, if you have students who need accommodations for housing because of a physical disability, there is a form that they need to fill out for that, and that is due June 1st. The other item that's not on this, and I need to update my document, is June 1st is the priority document deadline for financial aid. So if your students were selected for verification, most of their items are going to be due June 1st, and that will display in their checklist in their student forms account. So many students have already gotten those items appearing on their checklist and are working through them. If you have a student who has financial aid requirements and they have a June 1st deadline, please reinforce that missing that June 1st deadline is not a good idea. And if they have questions, they should call us sooner rather than later. And then in June, early June, we've got our second newsletter that's going to come out. This newsletter is really going to focus on course registration and a few other next steps, because if you notice down at the bottom, June 26th is when new students are going to start registering in courses. So leading up to June 26th, they're going to start getting an email campaign from us, as well as an invite to a webinar that's going to guide them through the course registration process. So we use a tool that kind of preloads all of their previous academic history. So if they've completed AP exams, if they have any other like college coursework, all of that gets preloaded into this tool that we will be teaching them how to use, that will then help them select their courses and then ultimately register in it. Leading up to that, we will be doing a webinar to kind of teach students about those tools, and we will have what we're calling just-in-time support. So the week of registration, we will have live drop-in support all day for 5 days that week, where students can come in and meet with an academic advisor or a registrar team member or a Students First Center staff member, so we can make sure that they're getting registered and getting the support that they need. And I see the question that came in from Wendy, and I will circle back to that as soon as I finish this slide. So I love the questions coming in, keep them coming. Another thing that's really important in June is that they register for orientation. So on April 18th is when the orientation registration tool will actually open up. Students are required to attend a summer orientation in July. And so the deadline to register for one of those orientation sessions is June 12th. And then that Summer Edge program that I talked about earlier, if anybody's interested in attending that, it's got a registration deadline of June 13th. If you have any international students that you're working with, Their documents for an I-20 and any other documents they might need to be here in the United States that we need from them. They'll be working with our International Scholars Office, and those documents have a priority deadline of June 15th. And then I've already talked about the one on June 26th. And then June 27th is when students can start applying for on-campus jobs. Dustin, we see your admitted student page. Is that where we wanted to go to next? Are we going to use it to answer the question?
Yeah, I thought we'd go here to answer the question about the major change, Lisa. So I'll scroll down to the right section if you wanted to, or I can actually answer this question. So one of the things that's been asked, and it actually came up quite often at the admitted student reception, which is, can I change my major at UC Merced as an incoming first-year student? And the answer is absolutely yes, you can. Like we mentioned earlier within the webinar, students will have the ability to change their major as incoming first-year students. We actually open this form to incoming first-year students on March the 29th. And once they submit their SIR, they can click on form opens March 29th to actually go into our major change form that will then ask the student to log into their UC Merced account and then be able to change their major. Just a reminder for everybody again, because I know Lisa mentioned it before. I know students get really worried. Will you actually see my major change before I select my classes? The answer is yes. That's why the deadline is May the 15th, as Lisa's going through when course registration takes place. The reason why we're asking them to change their major by May the 15th is so that when their academic advisors reach out to them, they'll have all the information they need to correctly help provide guidance to get them into their courses their first year. Something to note, though, is for transfer students, because I think we do have a couple transfer folks online. Transfer students are admitted directly into a major, so they will need to work with their academic advisor after the start of the term if they want to change into a different major. And there are restrictions for transfer students, unlike first-year students, who we give the option to explore some of the undergraduate coursework before they have to declare a major.
And transfer students, if they have SIR'd, their academic advisor is most likely already reaching out to them and talking about courses and prior academic history. So these students, as soon as they SIR, they start getting communications from us, and we'll go over that in a few slides. All right, I think we're good on June. Okay, moving on to July. July, much shorter list, which is great, right? But there are events in July that they need to come to. So first thing is final official transcripts are due on July 1st. We would love your help in this if you can communicate with your students, but we know that some students forget to order them before they graduate. And so we're really trying to encourage students this year to order them before they leave so that they're not scrambling this summer. Dustin, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would just say that one thing that often comes up, and I'm going to touch on it again in terms of our tips, is when students submit their official transcripts to us, really key for us is really two things. We need to see a final graduation date on the transcript, and we need to see final and official grades for their last semester in school. Oftentimes we get students' transcripts that don't contain that information, and unfortunately we have to reach out to the student and say that their transcripts are not official yet. So just a reminder for all your students, if they can, to start to order those transcripts, to work with your offices to get them to us, because I know oftentimes they struggle after school ends to sometimes get those transcripts in on time. So again, please have them start to plan that, because the sooner we get those transcripts, the quicker we can verify their information and make sure they're on the right foot for the fall.
Awesome. And then as you can see, we've got another newsletter coming out in July. This one's going to start focusing on next steps for attending orientation and preparing for all the things that are going to happen in August. We've also got a webinar in July that's about our health services. So as I talked about earlier, that students are required to carry major medical coverage. We know that health insurance waiver is sometimes confusing for students. And if you have a Medi-Cal student, one of the things that they need to do is change their county of residence. And that process can be a little confusing. So this webinar is going to offer some guidance on those two items. And then it's also going to talk about the immunizations that are required for students. So again, it's preparing them for deadlines that are going to come up in August. All right, then the next thing is the final test scores for admission. So standardized tests are no longer required, but we know some students are still taking them and they might be able to be used for certain prerequisites. So if they did take any standardized tests, we want to get those in from them. And then if they also took any AP exams, we need those final score reports as well. And then the big thing happening, well, the second big thing, because test scores and transcripts are big things. But also in July is when orientation starts. And so like I talked about earlier, the students will need to register for orientation. They get to pick the dates. I want to say this year there's like 13 days and they vary. There's a couple of them on a Saturday. Some of them are on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I think there's even a Friday option. We do offer the opportunity to stay in the dorms at a very low cost if families are interested in doing that. And orientation, I think it includes lunch the next day as well. All right, moving on to August. Okay, August. This is the big month. So August is when school starts. It's when their bill is due. It's when they're going to move in. It's when they're going to come to welcome week. So early in August, we've got a couple of deadlines that they need to really watch for. And one is that health insurance waiver. We'll get another news out to them on August 2nd that will start again preparing them for next steps and being on campus. And then on 8/3, we've got a billing webinar. This one is really important because we don't want any students to miss that fee payment deadline. We really want to guide them through this process. We have a earlier webinar too, and then also when they come in July for orientation, they can come and definitely talk to us about their bill at that time as well. But we really want to guide students through any questions they have about their bill so that they don't miss that fall fee payment deadline, which is on 8/16. And then on 8/9, we're going to do a move-in webinar, which is basically preparing them like what you should bring to campus, what you shouldn't bring. We get a lot of questions about at that webinar about, parking and what the experience will be like. And our housing team will be going over all of that with our students. Then move-in actually begins on the 17th and it goes over a span of a few days. Students get to select their move-in day and time based on their needs. So that's really cool. And then classes actually start on the 23rd of August. So they should be done and through all these steps by then. Okay, we're going to pause really quick. And Dustin, I'm going to let you take this question. So it says, are there references or guides for what is counted for UCM credits for AP scores of 3 and above? Oh, there definitely is. I know how to grab that.
Yeah, I was trying to grab the URL for you real fast, Lisa.
Awesome.
Yeah, let me post it in there, but let me find that. So as Lisa mentioned before, there is a list that you can actually use. I'll post the link to it here in the chat in a second. It's actually located in our catalog where students can see what we will provide in terms of credit for AP and IB examinations. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find it really quick. And then similar question too oftentimes comes up for students is, if I receive certain scores on my AP and IB exams, do I still need to take the placement exam? And the answer is, it depends on what your score is. So in the case of students that place that need to take, say, the writing placement exam or the math placement exam, depending upon their scores, for example, if a student were to take calculus AB or BC and score a 3 or better, they will be exempt from taking the math placement exam. We do need to make sure that we have those scores and the students have scores for those placement exams prior to April the 1st. If not, we still request that those students take the placement examinations because we won't receive their official test scores until sometime in July. And that allows us to make sure that we place the students in the correct classes when the advisors begin to submit course recommendations to them.
Dustin, can we pull up the admitted student website again really quick? I think I'm not sure we went over this, and we probably should. So we have this handy dandy website. If you've noticed, it's been on the bottom of all of the screens we've just gone through, and this is where it'll take you. This is a wonderful tool to review yourself and share with your students. If you go to next steps, it lists out everything that I just had in these slides, but with more information. So like Dustin was just talking about the placement exams, that's step number 6. If you click on that, it's got links and information where a student can click and figure out, do I need to take this placement exam? And it will actually take you to the exam itself. So this is a really handy tool. Rachel, I see your question, and that is also a fabulous question. And I'm going to hold on that one until I get to the financial aid slide, which I think is just right around the corner, because I want everybody to hear the answer to that one. So thank you for asking it. All right, next slide. Oh, look, it is the next slide. Yay. Okay, good timing, Rachel. Okay, so financial aid. I understand, and so does Dustin, that financial aid can be complex and that there's a lot of things to consider. So I want to give you all a couple of tools, and then I want to get to Rachel's question. So the first thing is that students should currently be able to see their financial aid offer in their Connect account. Connect is our student portal. Once they log in, they go to their My Merced section, and then they click on My Financial Aid. And then that's where they can view what they've been offered. If your student applied for financial aid and they are not seeing anything in there, one of two things has happened. One, they might have a requirement that's preventing us from packaging them. So sometimes a student has like a citizenship requirement, and it'll be on their checklist, and that prevents us from telling them what they're eligible for until we get that item from that. So if that's any of your student situation, make sure they're submitting that document ASAP. The other thing that could have happened is they didn't list our school code. And we find that is very common with, what are we calling them, Dustin? Our Bright Beginnings?
That's right, our Bright Beginning students.
Our Bright Beginning students, which are students who did not apply to us directly, but they've gotten an invite. They tend to not have our school code on there. So that's a really good thing to double check with your student. So that's first tip, is that they should currently be able to see their financial aid. The next thing I want you all to know about is this handy dandy tool that we have that we call our undergraduate direct cost worksheet. I will tell you how to get to it because it's a little hidden. So you're going to go to the financial aid website. And actually, Dustin, can you just pull up the financial aid website, and I'll guide them there really quick. Awesome. So you're going to go to financialaid.ucmerced.edu. You're going to click on that icon that says cost. And then you're in that middle of that first paragraph, we're going to click on direct costs. And then from here, you can click on that link that says UC Merced undergraduate direct cost worksheet. Don't click there, Dustin, because it's going to ask you to log in. It won't work. The video that's underneath it is a guide and will help guide students through it. But I'm also going to go back to our presentation and show you how they can use this tool. So this tool requires students to log in to get access to it. Because what it does is it pulls all that information from their financial aid award that we gave them, and it builds this tool basically that will predict their bill for them. It's not a 100% accurate bill, but I always describe this as it's kind of your crystal ball to plan ahead for what you might need to either pay out of pocket, or maybe consider loans, or maybe consider a payment plan. This worksheet Let me quickly go over it. So what you're looking at here, section A, it's populating with all the potential charges that a student is going to get. Section B, it will populate with any grants and scholarships that we've offered them. Section C, it will populate with any loans they have accepted. And then section D, the numbers in red is what's left over that needs to be paid. Most students right now are going to be seeing section A populated and section B populated if they've received grants and scholarship from us. Nobody can accept loans for next year until after July 1st. So section C is currently probably defaulting to 0 for everybody. This screen grab that I used is on a test student. So there's no grants or scholarships assigned to this student. So which is why section B is populating as 0. But this is an interactive tool. So for example, on line 4, this is assuming that this student needs health insurance in the fall semester. If you have a student who's pretty confident they're going to waive out of our health insurance, you could just put your cursor on line 4 in that fall semester column. You could delete the information that's in there, type a 0, hit enter, and then that red number at the bottom will auto recalculate for you. The other thing is that line 3 is kind of an average number of room and food. And so the student could go on to the housing website and actually plug in the real rates to get an even more accurate prediction of what their bill is going to look like. And then down on the bottom, let's say the student looks at this and says, oh, I can't afford that red number, so I need to consider my loans. They could then plug in their different loan amounts to see how that changes their bottom line, because people can get creative on how they cover any remaining costs. Maybe they want to take one student loan and then maybe their family wants to do a payment plan on the rest. Maybe they want to take both student loans and then that's enough to cover it. Maybe they want to take all their student loans so that they can get a refund back to help them with any other expenses they have. But this is a really useful tool that I recommend people start kind of looking at sooner rather than later so that they can start having these conversations with their family. Okay, Dustin, can you go back to the financial aid website real quick? And we're going to answer Rachel's question right now. So Rachel asked, is there a deadline to submit the financial aid appeal form? So under appeals, there are a handful of appeals that a student could do. So it really depends on what appeal you're talking about. One of the appeals that I've heard a lot of people ask about recently is the special circumstance appeal. So the special circumstance appeal is basically what's happening is that the FAFSA uses income data from 2 years prior, and a lot can happen in 2 years. So if a student has a family member has lost their job, maybe somebody got sick and they have extraordinary medical bills that are impacting their finances, or maybe they lost a family member that was a primary wage earner. This is a way for us to collect that information from a student and basically do an in-house adjustment to say, you know, that income from 2 years ago is no longer an accurate depiction of this student's current financial situation. The special circumstance appeal for this year is not open yet, but this is where you will find it. There isn't a deadline to turn it in, but the longer it takes a student to get it to us, the longer it takes for us to get them an answer. These do take a little bit of time because it is a thorough review process. But once this form opens, you know, if you have students that are in this situation, you might want to give us a call and we're happy to talk with them about it. Rachel, if that didn't answer your question, please feel free to post another one in the chat. All right, going back to our presentation. All right, Dustin, it's all you.
All right, thanks so much, Lisa. So just a couple tips to leave you with today, and I'm only going to stick with 3 because 3 is sort of the number that I like to stick with, because I think it's the 3 main points that we want you all to know about, and probably are like the burning questions in your offices at this point in time. So the big one is transcripts. Like I said before, if you can, please work with your students just to put a date or pin a date in their calendars to make sure they get their transcripts are in and on time to us. One of the things that happens every single year is that we're tracking down students and trying to get their transcripts. And this usually happens over the course of summer, and it creates a lot of anxiety for the students and the families involved because they're not able to find the right people during the summer to get their transcripts to. And the thing to know too is those transcripts do need to be official sealed transcripts or electronically submitted to our office so that we can use that to verify the student's academic record. Similarly, one thing that's really important, and I'm going to go into the Bright Beginnings section next, is the My Course Updates. My Course Updates is a way for a student to report to us, the Office of Admissions, any changes to their academic coursework, any D, F, or non-passing grades that the student received, and students can submit that information up until June the 30th online to us through their Connect portal. So if they go to connect.ucmerced.edu and they go into that platform that Lisa was mentioning earlier, they can select My Course Updates and then notify our office of any changes to their application. And we highly, highly, highly encourage students to do that as soon as possible. One of the things that our staff does is we'll review that change of information for the student's record and we'll figure out whether or not it's going to affect their admissions. If we have that information early enough, and if a student doesn't pass a class that may be required to continue their admissions, we can reach out to them and offer them alternate solutions to possibly mitigate any us having to rescind their admissions over the summer. But it only happens if they notify us earlier than later. So I know a lot of times students have anxiety about, is my admissions going to be rescinded if I notify them of a non-passing grade? It's better to notify us earlier, because one of the things we do at UC Merced is, again, review all of that information, and then our staff will reach out if there is another way that we can continue that student's admission. So again, I think most students do just fine over the course of summer, and regardless of their senioritis, will be fine. But in the case that a student isn't and something came up or circumstances presented them in such a way that they were not able to take the classes they indicated on their application, let us know as soon as possible. Again, the deadline for that is June the 30th, and it's better to get it in sooner than later. So don't wait till June the 30th, because sometimes with the volume of reported course changes that happen, we may not get back to that student until early July. So again, if you have students that are changing their schedule right now, make sure they get those notifications in sooner than later. And then lastly, one of the things I wanted to talk about, because we release these offers this past week, is our Bright Beginnings program. Our Bright Beginnings program is a part of University of California's commitment to provide every UC eligible student that meets both the ELC guidelines or is a part of the statewide eligibility index and option for a UC campus. And so we provide this opportunity for students annually. And this year, your students may have been selected for this program. Students are provided an offer of admissions and have until May the 1st to commit to UC Merced. And one of the first things we tell Bright Beginnings students, because they often ask this question, is, what's the first step that I should do in order to consider this offer? And what we highly suggest that they do is to go into their FAFSA or California Dream Map application and add UC Merced's financial aid code. From there, it takes our offices between 5 to 10 business days to process a financial aid award. If they do that now, they'll receive their financial aid award, and they can take advantage of the many opportunities to explore our campus before their May the 1st deadline. Just so students know, because this oftentimes comes up, if I commit to UC Merced and I'm on a waitlist offer, will I not be able to take that waitlist offer in the future? The answer is, if we obviously want you to commit to a place by May the 1st, since that's the deadline nationally for many colleges and universities. But if you are later offered a spot on the wait list, students can take that offer. So again, just so that you all know as counselors, because I'm sure many of your students are asking, is this offer legitimate? Is UC Merced really offering me admissions? And the answer is yes. And one of the reasons why is, as both Lisa and I alluded to, we're one of the fastest growing campuses in the entire nation. We've come from 800 to over 9,000 students in a little less than 20 years. And so we've got plenty of room to expand and grow. And as we're expanding and growing, we can provide those options for students to be a part of the newest University of California campus.
Dustin, you've got, I think, a good question in the chat that maybe we should share with everyone, which is, what if it's a low grade in a recommended year? Should they still report?
Absolutely. You should report all low grades, specifically D, F, non-passing grades in your My Course updates. Again, most of the time, if it's a student's first D or F grade in a non-required class like math and or English, we're usually able to continue a student's admissions. But again, letting us know sooner than later is important, because one of the things that our office sometimes does is offer students the option to take a class over the summer to mitigate any grades they didn't pass.
And Han, I believe that answers your question, but if not, well, just let us know. All right, let's get to the next one. Oh, Wendy, they don't need to email or call us. It's a online form we need them to fill out. It's called a My Course update. They can get to it here on our admitted student webpage. They can also get to it through their student portal and their Connect account.
Yeah, and it's that information is located right here in step 1 about maintaining eligibility. If they click here on the link, like Lisa mentions, it'll take them directly into their student portal, and they'll see an icon that says My Course Updates. Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. All right. Okay, we have 15 minutes left, so we're going to be quick on this next part because we want to also answer questions. This is just some tips and info and things that I think everybody should know that we're doing this summer. This is kind of a piece of what we call our anti-MELT campaign. So MELT is the term that education uses to describe a student who has accepted their offer of admissions, but actually doesn't show up in the fall. They melt away. It's hot in the summer. And we understand that MELT happens for a number of reasons, and some of those things we can't control for, and that's fine. But our goal is that MELT shouldn't happen to a student because of an administrative process, which is why Dustin and Amy and I put so much work into this campaign. We're doing this webinar today to make sure that students have the resources they need if they really want to be at UC Merced this fall. We don't want anyone to not come because they didn't know their financial aid or they didn't know how to register in classes. We are here to help, and we care about these students, and we want to make sure that they're getting the support they need. So like I talked about earlier, we're going to be doing webinars throughout the summer that will be that kind of just-in-time support. We're really mindful of these dates and deadlines and making sure that we're reaching out to these students in multiple ways, because we know that webinars aren't for everyone, email isn't for everyone. So we're trying to kind of cover all of our bases. A new tool that we have launched this year, it's called Wiser. And Amy or Dustin, I don't know, do either of you want to jump on and talk about this fun new tool that we have?
I can go ahead and do that. So one of the things that we know is that creating communities and allowing students to interact with future students and current students is just a great way to bridge that experience between high school into the UC Merced, or from community college to UC Merced. And so our Wiser tool allows students and parents to interact and engage with both our students as well as our staff, and really find their home away from home. And so we actually offer different communities that exist, and we put these communities together so students can come and join and ask questions and just get to learn about UC Merced before they step foot on our campus in August. We highly encourage your students, if they're admitted to campus, to come here. We have our own peer ambassadors as well as our staff members handy and in these different communities just to answer any questions. Students can ask things like, what's housing like? How do you find a roommate? And we also have a separate community for our parents where they can engage and interact with each other. And we've seen really great conversations happening about, even basic things like, hey, how are you getting to campus in the fall? Is anybody going to UC Merced for Bobcat Day? I'm looking for a ride. Just great interaction and opportunity for, again, our students to find that community away from home, and also for our parents and families to engage with us. One of our philosophies within here at UC Merced in the Office of Admissions specifically is that when we recruit a student, when we bring them to campus, we're not just bringing the student to campus, we're really recruiting their entire family. And this is one of those spaces where we want families and parents who have helped and engaged in many cases with their students to this point to still be engaged in that process as they're getting ready to come and join our campus.
Yes, awesome. For me, I kind of describe this, it's like a private Facebook is kind of how it functions for me. So it's a great tool for our students. All right, back to our presentation. I think we're almost done so we can get to those questions. We talked about, I think, everything. Just my one reminder tip is the SIR process and getting access to systems. So from the point that a student SIRs, it takes our system at least 24 hours to kind of update that profile and to get them access to their next steps. The housing application can take 24 to 48 hours, but definitely 24 hours after a student submits their SIR, their Connect account is going to have new icons in it for them, and their checklist will update with new tools as well. Okay, that brings us to the end of our presentation. We have about 10 minutes left that I would really love to answer any questions. And we have a quick poll that Amy is going to launch too. There's 2 questions that I just want to know from everyone if you have a couple minutes. One is, was this helpful? Because if it was, we will keep doing them. And then 2 is, would you like to see a second webinar? We are happy to do another one of these webinars after May 1st to kind of refresh on next steps and help you, again, help your students on joining our Bobcat community. So please take a minute to answer those poll questions, and then let's get started with questions from the audience. So feel free to post them in chat, or do they have the raise hand function? We'd love to just have a conversation if you want to do that.
We have the raise hand feature open and Q&A.
Okay, all right.
Chat is actually closed.
Let them fly.
If you want to close the presentation, you'll get the full gallery on screen.
Oh, there you go, Dustin. Oh no, it's just us.
Let's see.
I don't see any hands coming up. Oh, you are welcome. Okay, you have kids that want to transfer to another UC. I tell them difficult, but am I right? So, I mean, it can be done, but what they need to be doing at that point is talking to that other UC about their admissions requirements. So it's basically like they're applying as a transfer student. There isn't a transfer process from school to school. So they need to be reaching out to that admissions office to talk about being a transfer student in a couple of years. Oh, here come all the questions. I see them all. Yay. Do you have any PDF version that I can share with our students? A PDF of this presentation? Is that what you were asking, Rachel? I think that's what you're asking. We don't, but we will email this out. But what I do have is this fabulous, oh, you can't really see because of
You're getting blocked out.
if I put it in front of my face, there it is.
There you go.
We just came out with these handy dandy tools. They are front and back, and it's basically this presentation summarized in a handout. So we are going to be putting those online, and we will be handing these out at Bobcat Day. So we'll get those out to everybody ASAP. Yeah, and if you are done with the presentation and don't have any questions, you know, feel free to go back to your day. We really appreciate you all coming. We hope it was helpful.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
Before we go, I wonder if we like point them out to where they can get a hold of your staff or our staff. If you want to make an appointment.
Yeah, we did not do that.
Screen really fast so we can go back there.
Awesome. So this is the Students First Center website, and students can interact with us the way they want to interact with us. We offer the phone, obviously, they can call us. They can request a call back if they want to do that. They can email us. We have a chat. We have in-person services. We also have virtual drop-in hours that, as you can see, go till 9 p.m. on some nights because we know that 8 to 5 doesn't work for everybody. And then we even have virtual appointments. So if the student, wants to schedule a time so that they know in advance, this is my time, I can put it on my calendar. That might work better for some parent schedules. We offer that as well. So we have multiple ways that they can come and interact with us. And then as Dustin touched on a little bit, this Saturday is Bobcat Day, and we will all be out there answering questions and providing all of this kind of live guidance. So that's another great opportunity for students to come and get help.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. And if you have a chance, you know, you and your students and even your prospective students are invited to come out for Bobcat Day. It's taking place this Saturday from 9 to 2 p.m. We've got lots of great events. And again, the day is both for families of admitted and prospective students. And obviously, you know, we want to invite you too, as our colleagues, to come and join us for Bobcat Day. We're expecting between 5,000 to 6,000 people on campus. We have lots of things ranging from academic opportunities to speak with our faculty, specialized tours of our housing facilities. We'll even have our chancellor speaking live to our audience about some of our new upcoming things that we can expect to see at UC Merced in the near future. And again, all of our clubs and organizations will be out as well. So it's just a fabulous time to come visit campus. And if you haven't been in a while, I'm sure you'll be surprised with all the growth.
Yeah, and if you do come say hi. We would love to meet anybody who was on this webinar. It'd be fabulous. But I think that's it. So I think we'll sign off and give everybody 5 minutes back in their day. We'll get this recording out and the handout that I talked about out probably within 2 business days. You got to give us a minute to edit and render. Is free for school counselors to join. Yes, Bobcat Day is free for everybody. And we would love for you to come. All right, everybody, have a fabulous Monday and thanks for joining us.
Bye, everyone.